So, again, still kicking my ass here. I am going to read you an email, and I'm going to omit an email address, obviously, for the protection of the administrator over the matter. I don't want him being bombarded with a bunch of bullshit emails from people who think they know what they're doing and that are aggrieved at the outcome of the trial by jury. But I do want to read this to you, and this is where I failed the jury. All right, and I had some inquiries going. Well, how did you fail the jury, Derek? What are you talking about? How did you fail the American people, man? You did a great job. I did do a damn fine job for never being in a trial before. I'll tell you what, I kicked the shit out of them, and they all fucking know it. They got their asses handed to them. There were some issues that should have been brought up that weren't. But at the end of the day, this is where I failed the American people and the jury. Okay? This is where it is. And when I read this email to you, you will understand better why I know that to be true. It's a fact. There is no disputing this. This is a fucking fact, okay? This is a contract. This is what everybody agreed to. The terms and definitions would be. My stance as attorney in fact for the all caps estate should have been clearly laid out, and this is why. This was sent to me, how do I figure out? November 12th, 2021 at 10:35 a.m. So plenty of notice, plenty of opportunity. When you do things by way of email, ladies and gentlemen, it is admissible in court. It has a time, a date that it's sent. I like to use RMail. RMail does a little more. It requires qualified digital signatures in order to access your email, which proves that they received it, tells you what time they opened it. But just the same, Gmail, Proton Mail, all the email does work as a process of service because you can prove what date and time you sent the correspondence. So it says, Mr. Klein and Mr. Gonzalez, Judge Kozak, however you say his name. I've always said it Kozak. I may be incorrect in my pronunciation. Forgive me for that. Would like proposed jury instructions setting forth the elements of each charge and any terms, words that you feel might require a definition. Please email them to, and this is where I'm going to omit the email because it deals with the administrator, and I don't want people sending nasty fucking emails to this guy because, quite honestly, he was the referee, and I dropped the fucking ball. It wasn't his fault. It was mine. And because I didn't put any proposed definition and jury instructions, I ended up with what the fuck I got, which was bullshit, but I consented to it, which was ignorant of me. That's where I failed the jury. So on November 12, 2021, I was asked to provide the law, ladies and gentlemen, to the jury. The definitions, the definition of person, for example, being a legal fiction, okay? I was, and I don't think a lot of people get this opportunity. I don't think a lot of people that the people that are in the system would ever afford anybody else an opportunity like this. I've never heard of it before, to be honest with you. And the more I look back in hindsight, the more I'm kicking myself in the ass. And it sucks. It sucks. So, that is how I know that what I'm talking about is accurate, true, and correct. I had the opportunity to set the terms and conditions of the contract, and I failed to do so. Most of it, actually, all of it was out of ignorance, like, fuck you guys, I'll show you. You're not going to order me to do a damn thing. This isn't an order. I took it the wrong way. I let ego get in the way. I took it the wrong way. I was like, fuck you, I'll show you guys. Just watch. Just watch. I can do it orally just fine on my own. And I did a damn fine job of doing it orally. What hung me up at the very fucking end was this shit. This is what hung me up. I'm telling you right now, there were at least 3 jurors that were would vote not guilty, and the proof's in the pudding. When we adjourned, we sat out in the cars for, an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, I think, before they called us back in. That means the jurors were arguing amongst themselves, saying we can't go home until we all agree that he's guilty or that he's innocent. And you may have had a 4-7 split or whatever, I don't know. But I will tell you this, there was definitely some discussion amongst the jurors, which means that if I had done my damn duty for the American people and done it right and not had such a chip on my shoulder, the outcome of this, I am fucking certain of, would have been a split decision, which means they would have found it not guilty verdict. Now, I don't know if in order to nullify a perceived or presumed and assumed law as prima facie evidence, such as statutes and codes, that it requires everybody to agree not guilty. I'm not sure if that's what it takes to actually nullify a statute and code saying the legislator has gone way beyond their power and their means. I'm going to do some due diligence into that. I really want to know. It seems to make sense to me in my mind that if we nullify something through the jury, that everybody would have to unanimously agree not guilty. This is not a fucking law. This is bullshit. Okay. Because in the event to find somebody guilty, they have to find, all juror members have to agree that it's a guilty verdict. So I'm thinking that in order to nullify the law, again, I'm speculating here that everybody unanimously would have to rule not guilty, and that may initiate a nullification. I'm not 100% certain on that. I'm going to do a little more due diligence, so take that with a grain of salt. I do know that it only requires one man to say not guilty, and it's over. And unfortunately, I failed the jury. My fault. I failed the American people on that gig, and it's going to haunt me for years. But make no mistake about it, there are grounds for trial de novo, and I'm not going to talk about them right now on here because I have plenty of agents and agency that watch myself on Facebook. Okay. But some of the grounds I'll get into another date and time after I decide what exactly I'm going to do for sure. There were multiple grounds for trial de novo, and I'm not going to articulate them on here again because I don't want to get them prepared for some type of bullshit mundane answer to the trial de novo, or requiring a trial de novo. There are plenty of grounds for appeals as well. And one of those is substantive rights violations, okay? And substantive rights are protected by the Constitution, okay? So this becomes an administrative matter of substantive rights. Now, how I am going to go about it will be very much different than anything anybody's ever seen before. All right, and again, I'm not going to divulge how I'm going to do that. I have my own ways of doing things. I do things a little different than most, and I enjoy being a peculiar man who is, in fact, a power of attorney over the estate, okay? I know what Derek S. Gonzalez is. I know what Derek Gonzalez is, all capital letters. They're egregious misnomers that are not registered with the Secretary of State. I've already done my due diligence, and I knew that prior to going in there. But what I did was I looked them up online instead of going to the Secretary of State and writing him a letter and asking him for a direct correspondence in written form back, which I should have done because I would have had the evidence that the prosecutor had no standing. There is no entity for which he's alleging to exist or purported to exist that he would be able to move claim against, okay? So he had no standing. There were some other things that I should have done in hindsight. Again, to prove standing, we need to see the foreign registration certificate of good standing for that agent and agency, and that he's compliant with the Foreign Registration Act of 1938, amended in 1939. We also need to give rise to a fact, and a very poignant fact, because when we talk about the Foreign Registration Act, I think it's very imperative for people to comprehend why we would bring up such an issue. And that is because all the state sigils that they are operating under are in fact registered in Canada after 1950. And people go, well, Derek, what does that mean exactly? Well, if the state sigil is registered up in Canada, ladies and gentlemen, who the fuck are they collecting taxes for? That's the question. And it also grants rise to the need for them to register as foreign agents and agency. All right, they're not working on behalf of the Republic for the United States of America. They're working on behalf of a private for-profit corporation who has a DUNS number, who's registered up in Canada with their state seal. Okay, the Great Nebraska State Seal. It's registered in fucking Canada, guys. It's a foreign operation. Okay. Also under Title 26, 2032, AE 11, all agents and agency purported to work on behalf of the judiciary responsible because they're negotiating securities in their private ad hoc corporation utilizing the UCC as their principal guidelines for engaging in commerce. Under Title 26, 2032, AE 11, they are all responsible and required to either be independently bonded, which they're not, or if they are, they're doing a damn good job of burying it and hiding it, because I have not been able to find it yet. But they're required to be registered with the Secretary of Treasury of Puerto Rico and have a standing bond in place in order to even do business outside of Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. That's huge. That's monumental for you guys to let that sink into your head. So I require to see, per Title 26, 2032, AE 11, the fact that Martin Klein is independently bonded with the Secretary of Treasury of Puerto Rico, which would give him standing in this venue. Is he independently bonded? I see no facts and evidence that he is compliant with, and I need to see those for and on the official record for my inspection. All right? Very important stuff here. Let's see. Back to the Secretary of State. If you've got an active ongoing case going on right now, it would behoove you to notify the Secretary of State immediately in written form, inquiring about the all caps name that they're using on the docket. Okay? We know that's a nom de guerre. That's a name of war. We know this is not necessarily registered, right? We want to inquire about the Derek Gonzalez. Now, see, this name, Derek Gonzalez, changed about 2 or 3 times throughout the case. It went from Derek S. Gonzalez to Derek S. period Gonzalez to now just Derek Gonzalez, all right? And the law acts very specifically. The parties of a case must be identified prior to proceeding. Everybody must be properly identified. Well, Derek Gonzalez here on this document, and Derek S. Gonzalez goes to prove that they keep shifting everything, and so they're not being specific. I don't know who or what this applies to, because the original initiating charging instruments are Derek S. Gonzalez, and then they moved to Derek S. period Gonzalez. Now they moved to Derek Gonzalez, and I'm not sure if any of those entities at this point are in existence. Okay, so it's a constructive trust or a resulting trust based upon the creation of the estate for which we have control of after the age of 18. Also, if you don't have your trade name yet, it would behoove you greatly to go back to your home state and register the trade name, the full first, middle, and last name, and take control over that entity and link it back through chain of title back to your estate. And you will have to figure out how to do that. I am just now executing that for myself prior to sentencing, just to show, hey, look, I am complete control of this. I am the attorney, in fact. There are no facts in dispute here. We're going to go ahead and just administer these securities and make sure that everybody's made whole and that the rights, titles, interests, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general intangibles, general tangibles, securities, assets, rents, profits, and proceeds after everybody's made whole are in fact distributed back to the beneficiary. Well, the beneficiary is known. Okay, that's me. But I can also go in there as power of attorney. See, people get so confused about how to do this. The reality is you can be a trustee, you can be the beneficiary, you can be the grantor, you can be the settler, okay? And you can switch hats at any fucking time. There are times where it's advantageous to be the trustee, okay? And let me explain that to you. There was a man, he got married, he did very well for himself. His wife decided it was no longer working. They got divorced. She got 3/4 of what he had built with his own business, okay? Now, I understand that when you're married, you're partners, and she may have rightfully helped by taking care of the offspring and making sure, you know, bills were paid. So I'm not discrediting the woman in any way, shape, or form, okay? But she ended up with 3/4 of the estate in the divorce. And then he was also ordered to pay child support and all this other shit. So it just turned into a big nightmare for him. About 4 years later, after being separated, he swore off women, which I don't blame him. It wasn't the fact that he didn't like them. It was the fact that as soon as you meet a woman and the system finds out about it, they're like, oh, we got an in. If he's dumb enough to get fucking married again, we got him again. Second time around. So what he did, he found this gal, and she wanted to get married to him, and he thought about it. And one of his buddies was extraordinarily learned in trust. Now this man said, you know what, I'll get married to her, but this time I'll do it different. I'll sign a prenup. Prenubs are junk. Absolute bullshit. Prenubs are a joke, okay? You want to protect your family, your assets, you create trusts, okay? And this is the importance of this. So he talked to his learned friend, said he was going to create a prenup. His buddy said, no, don't create a prenup. We're going to create you a trust this time. If she really loves you, this won't bother her at all, and you guys can get married, and you guys can enjoy the estate and the trust that is manifested between yourself as the grantor of this trust. And then you'll come back in as the trustee, and you'll own nothing yet control everything. His buddy didn't really understand what was going on. They create this trust, they put the houses, the cars, everything in it that's his prior to being married to her. Her assets, they don't do anything with. She's really not familiar with the trust. She doesn't want to participate. And he said, that's fine. We don't need your participation. But for his protection, he's going to go ahead and create this trust. Now, at this point, over the period of 4 years, he built himself back up, had a nice estate again, had houses and cars and all that stuff. After getting rid of 3/4 of his stuff, he was able to build himself up pretty quickly. The man gets married to the woman, okay? And a few years go by, and she decides that she no longer wants to be with him. She wants a divorce. She calls the sheriff's department while he's at work and says, hey, I don't want him back here. I just filed for a divorce today. I motioned for a protection order. It was immediately granted to me because I'm afraid that this might go south. So don't let him back here at this house. He's been ordered not to be around me, and I'm in the house and he's not in the house, so I'm going to stay in the house, and he will have to go stay at a hotel or something or with a friend. So he gets home, and to his surprise, there's sheriff's deputies sitting in his yard as civil servants to keep the peace, and they say, hey, we've got some documents we need to serve you. Your estranged wife here is filing for divorce. We're just going to go ahead and serve these to you. And under the circumstances, there's been an order put in place. The judge says that there's a protection order. You can't go in the house, unfortunately. We're here as civil standbys. We're going to allow you to go in and grab some clothes and stuff because we realize this is a surprise to you. So we're going to go ahead and walk you in and allow you to get some of your things. She's already packed up a couple bags for you. They're sitting by the door. We'll allow you to grab those. And if there's anything else you want to walk through the house to grab before you you have to leave, we'd be more than happy to do that for you. So they escorted him through the house. He grabbed a few more items. He took 2 bags of clothes that she had already packed for him. And he protested, of course. Look, this isn't right. You can't just remove me from this house. I understand that she no longer wants to be with me, but however, there's an issue right now. And of course, the civil standby servants say the right thing. They say, look, your plight needs to go before the proper authorities, the administrators on this matter. We cannot, unfortunately, make that decision on whether we feel it's right or it's wrong. That's not our job here. Our job here is to maintain the peace and make sure that nobody gets belligerent, nobody becomes violent, nobody burns down the house, and then we are to inform you that if you come back here after this point, you've been duly put on notice that you'll be hit with trespass and you do risk going to jail. So do yourself a favor. Please do not come back to this residence. Understand that we are duty bound to inform you of this, that you may be held responsible if you come back here. The man said, okay, and he left. He took his earthly possessions and he went. He immediately files an action before the court, an emergency hearing before the court, on the grounds that he doesn't own the house. He is merely the trustee on behalf of the principal. Well, it wasn't a few short hours after filing that, and he was immediately summoned to the court to explain his juxtaposition on how the judge, the administrator, didn't have the grounds to remove him from the house. In fact, it was the complete polar opposite. He had a duty to remove the woman. Now let me explain this to you. This man came in as the trustee. Why would he do that? He came in as the trustee because he was duty bound to protect the assets of the estate in the interest of the beneficiary. All right? This is so powerful. So powerful. Judge said, do you mind if I see that trust indenture? Sure, but if I show you that trust indenture, I want you to know that you now become liable for any damage that you may cause to the estate. Okay, I have no problem showing you the trust indenture. No problem showing you that the trust does exist. I've just put this court on notice that there's an egregious error at law that has happened, and any damage that that woman causes to that estate, to that house, actually you will be found liable for. Because as the trustee, I have a duty to make sure that property is in mint condition and it doesn't harm the beneficiary. The judge said, well, who's the beneficiary? He said, sir, I'm the trustee and I'm not at liberty to discuss those matters with you. Okay? A trust will not fail for want of a trustee, and the beneficiary doesn't necessarily have to know he's the beneficiary. Did he lie to the judge? No, he did not. No, he did not. He simply told the judge, I am the trustee. Okay? As soon as he walks out that door, he can flip his hat around and be the beneficiary. It's not an issue. This is why I love trust law so much. So, the judge said, okay, here's the thing. We got to call her into the court because we've got to give her due notice. We've got to let her know that she has to move her stuff out immediately. So he told the bailiff, hey, here's a summons. Go summons that woman right now to this court. Go bring her in here. We need to have a discussion with her. So they bring the woman into the court. And he says, ma'am, I have to dutifully inform you. I'm duty bound to inform you that you have 24 hours to get your stuff packed up, and you got to move out of that house, and I mean post haste. It's got to be done immediately. And she said, but your honor, he owns it. And he said, ma'am, I'm telling you that you have 24 hours to pack your stuff. I'm going to send some civil servants over there because he's got liability. If she destroys the house because she thinks he owns it or something, now he's liable because he's originally the one that kicked the trustee out of the premises and isn't allowing him to protect the property. And she said, but your honor, he owns it. He owns the cars. He owns everything. And she says, ma'am, he doesn't own anything. He owns nothing. I don't know what your guys' arrangement was before you got married, but that man, I can assure you, owns nothing. Now, this woman is befuddled. She has no idea what's going on. She is completely awestruck at the fact that the judge is saying, this man doesn't have a bank account. He doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a car. He doesn't have anything. And she's going, bullshit. We bought these together. I know he's got this house. He had this stuff before we got together. I know he owns this. What she didn't realize is that he had learned from his past mistake of getting married, and he had manifested a trust into existence, okay? And that trust protected all those assets, and that is the importance of owning nothing and controlling everything, okay? Which is exactly what the government's doing. They're doing the same thing. It's a manifested trust into existence, all right? They're operating through trust. They're using the Uniform Commercial Code, ladies and gentlemen, to enforce the trust. It's basically the trust indenture. The trust indenture is the law of the fucking trust. That's what a trust indenture is. And you cannot go against the law of the trust. A breach of a trust is the highest violation known to man, because trust law was actually created by our Heavenly Father. It's the highest law on the land. Your preamble for the United States Constitution for the United States of America is, in fact, the beginning of a trust, okay? It is the intent of the testator, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And it is a trust. And if you know how to articulate this, you can invoke its protections. You are the intended beneficiary of that constructive trust. So, needless to say, the woman was scorned. She was escorted off the premises. The reason the administrator had to do that is because he then and there became liable after being informed that there was a trust and that the man was the trustee on behalf of the principal. And a trust will not fail for lack of a trustee, but a trust also will not fail for failure to disclose who the intended beneficiary is. He has no obligation to do that, and if he compels him to perform, to tell him who the intended beneficiary is, if the beneficiary has caused harm, damage, or loss because of that, the administrator is now liable for that. They're not about to fucking become liable to the beneficiary because they were nosy and curious. That's exactly why trusts are created. And Lord Mayor Rothschild should have taught us all about that, because when he died, I believe it was Lord Mayor Rothschild, when he died, told the news media, under no uncertain circumstances are any of my properties to be divulged to the American people, furthermore the people of the world. As to the assets that are in this trust, they are private, okay? Private. Period. Who knows how much of the continent, the world, moreover, that Lord Mayor Rothschild actually owned prior to his death? You want to know why? Because it was all in trust. It was private, not to be disseminated amongst the public. Okay? And the beneficiaries, again, don't have to be known to the public. That's the beautiful thing about trust. So anyway, the moral of the story is a trust will always surpass a prenup, okay? And if you want to protect your family's assets, it would behoove you to start learning about trust and trust law. So with that said, I appreciate you guys. I want to let you know this is far from over, but I wish I would have not let my foolish ego and pride get in the way when I was asked, not ordered, I was asked. Do you mind putting together some jury instructions and some definitions of words for the jury? And I was like, fuck you guys. I don't have to do shit. I'm going to smoke you guys. Cocky arrogance will be your greatest downfall, ladies and gentlemen. And let me be the the guy who prevents you from learning that lesson the hard way. Trust law classes. Yeah, we can get into trust soon. I've got some things in the works. I'm going to be a little busy for the time being. I will punch out some classes. We'll talk about preparing yourself for trial by way of jury. A lot of people say, oh, don't go in the courts. I'm in staunch disagreement with this. And here's why. I have petitioned the legislators, Congress, President of the United States, you name it, the U.S. military, the DO-fucking-D, the Secret Service. I am not a guy who fucks around, all right? Look at this face. This guy, there's one place we don't fuck, and that's in circles, all right? We don't fuck around. So you're talking to a man who has went way above and beyond what most people have ever even attempted in petitioning people. And I'm talking some of your highest ranking military officials, highest ranking Secret Service officials, your provost marshals. I've done things most people have never fucking heard of, okay? And I'm telling you right now, the remedy for the American people is in the fucking jury of 12. And as soon as we can get them enlightened to the fact that we decide the law and we decide the facts, okay? Statutes and codes are prima facie evidence of law. Some of them I agree with. I was even asked that on the stand. Derek, are you against the government? No, I'm not an enemy, belligerent combatant of the United States of America. There's a need for it. I'm not an enemy of it. Furthermore, they had a right to do what they did. I'm not opposed to it. What I am opposed to is people holding mock fucking judicial trials under the guise that it's the judiciary when it's really lodged under the executive branch, okay? Somehow placating to me that I'm involved in a contract with you asshats and that you're going to dictate what my intentions were, because I have a right, an unalienable right, to use a modern day conveyance without registration, and it's tax exempt, so long as it's only being used for private household consumer goods and purposes, household purposes, my leisure and my pleasure. The only thing the government has a right to tax is commerce. And I'm in agreement with that. I don't want an 18-wheeler going down the road over fucking loaded and lose a back axle and kill a family of 7 in a minivan. I don't want that shit. There's a need for the DOT. There's a need for the policy enforcers. And they're to regulate and monitor commerce to make sure that we the people's highways, freeways, and byways are fucking safe. All right? And when I articulated that on the stand, he was almost dumbfounded. He was just like, no, I'm not speaking in contradictions here, pal. I'm telling you the truth. And it was hard for him to fathom. He says, let me ask you this, Derek. Have you ever registered an automobile, a motor vehicle? Have you ever registered one? You're damn fucking right I have. Well, I don't get it. Yeah, I know you don't. Let me explain it to you. I was engaged in commerce. I owned a business called Piper's Paint Pros Incorporated, and because of that, I had to register a 3/4 ton fucking truck. Absolutely, I have registered an automobile. And I think he thought that I was going to lie on the stand. I'm never going to purge myself, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck that. My only objective is to be true, to show people the truth, to hopefully lead them back to fucking freedom instead of this peaceful slavery horse shit that they believe is good for everybody. It's not. It's only great when we comprehend what's actually transpiring so we can take the reins back and take control of this out-of-control stagecoach. We got to get control of this shit. And the only way we're going to do it is by trial by way of jury. It's the only way it can be done. You are never going to petition a legislature. You want to know why? There is no true form of government right now. Nobody fills the fucking offices. Nobody fills the seats, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody. All right? So the way that we fix this is by helping our fellow brothers and sisters in the community go, does this sound fair to you? Does this seem reasonable to you? I mean, understanding the difference between the private side and the commercial side, can you guys see that if my intent is to deliver pizzas on a motorcycle, then I should register it as a motor vehicle. But if my intent is just to travel up and down the highway for my pleasure and my leisure, then it's tax exempt and it doesn't require registration. And if it's tax exempt and doesn't require registration, then everything that we're doing here is a waste of fucking time and should be nullified immediately. But where I dropped the ball was I did not create the definitions. I did not create the rules for the jury. And it wouldn't be that I would create the rules for the jury necessarily, because the rules for the jury have already been well established. William Penn, for fuck's sake. Go read the case about William Penn. All right? And I did some of that for you guys the other day about reading about jury trial and the importance of jury nullification. I want Americans to go in there and start to stand up. Now, does it come with a risk? Oh, you fucking ain't right. It comes at a risk. You risk everything. You could lose your house, your home, everything. But I will tell you this. 56 men pledged their sacred honor, lost their lives, their houses, their wives, their children, lost everything. People in the village that didn't understand, in the colonies, didn't understand what these people were doing, was for their interest. ostracized them, wouldn't let them buy milk, wouldn't let them buy bullets, wouldn't let them buy guns, wouldn't let them do anything within the community. In fact, in a lot of cases, ran those 56 men out of the community, and these 56 men were actually standing up for every last one of those people's rights. What an atrocity, huh? And yet, they still stood up and gave it their all. And for them, I am very thankful. And I hope that we don't let those men's efforts go in vain. Not to mention the countless military women and men throughout this great nation whose heart's in the right spot, their training is ineffective and inadequate, and they don't truly understand. Their heart tells them, I'm fighting for my country, and we appreciate that. Their teachings show them otherwise. They're not fighting for this country. They're fighting at the behest of bankers, okay, to loot and plunder other nations. Not on sound doctrines and principles, ladies and gentlemen, but for unjust enrichment, okay, for control of populations, to institute democracies, not republics, amongst other nations so they can soon dwindle and fall to pieces, okay? There's a clear-cut difference between a democracy and a republic. A democracy will always fail, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a matter of time. I think the Roman Empire stood for, 200 years, maybe not even. Here, the United States of America stood from 1776 to, 1871. All right? So not even that long. And everybody goes, oh, the United States outlasted Rome. No, it didn't. The United States of America did not outlast Rome. That's a misnomer. Okay? The United States of America was taken over by the Roman Empire in 1781. Okay? So, with that said, I love you guys. Freedom isn't free. We got this shit. It's just a matter of informing our friends and our family of the truth of what's going on, and then standing up. Standing up. Because if we don't, very soon, those loose, invisible chains that you don't feel on your neck will become real chains. It's coming. It's coming. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate you. Start to invest in yourself, first and foremost. We're going to want to start studying trust law. All this is in my law library. Super immaculate law library. You're going to want to learn how to bring claims. And you're going to want to practice mock trials from time to time. I learned so much in that mock trial, and it was a mock trial. It wasn't a true judiciary. It wasn't a true hearing. Standing wasn't proven on the state side, quote unquote. The man or woman bringing the alleged complaint never showed up. In hindsight, I should have put Martin Klein on the stand and said, hey, you're the only one with first-hand perfected knowledge of talking to your client. So although your client isn't here, your ass needs to get up there and you need to tell me what your client actually fucking told you. I should have done something like that. It would have just been funny. It would have been denied, but it would have been fucking hilarious. And it would have been grounds for an appeal. But anyway, enough of that. I love you guys. I'm going to go enjoy a cup of coffee, and I got to lay my parents' new hardwood floor today. So I'm going to be busy over the next couple days, but I love you, and thanks for tuning in. Make sure to share this with your friends and family. And again, I don't hold any ill will or animosity towards the members of the jury. They didn't fail me. I failed them. We'll do better next time. That's a guarantee.